It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. Love and tradition of the grand design, some people say, is even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. It's all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting after every scene. We're gonna fill our house with happiness, but we'll smother the blues with tenderness. There's room for you, room for me, for gentle hearts and opportunity. It's the bigger love of the family.
Woo! What's going on, everybody on YouTube? We are back. Yeah, we are back. The Financial Frontier gang, bro. We are in the building. That music was exciting, wasn't it? Family Matters. As days go by, it's a bigger love and a family. What's going on, Financial Frontier family? We are back live with another one. And today, let's start off with one of the things that everybody's talking about in the market. They're talking about $40 trillion in debt. Now, if you know something about something, you know I wrote a paper on this a long time ago. Yes, I already done it. I already did the research. I wrote this like years and years ago, but nobody listened. Nobody wanted to know. Please believe me. I wrote this a long time ago, and everybody's got the doom and gloom, and they trying to karate chop you and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, get you confused and get you worried about what's going on. But what? Sensei Master is here to get you right. The national debt is not a disaster. What? How, Sway? How, Sway? Well, let me go ahead and tell you. Let me tell you. Hold on. Let me tell you right now. Let's roll through this, all right? The national debt is not a disaster. Now, you got to understand the full picture of American national debt. So I'm going to give you that analysis, that frontier analysis, all right? The discussion is about the national debt of the United States. It's often confused all the time, and it stirs a lot of emotions, a lot of debates. However, many of these discussions focus on the narrow aspect of debt itself without considering the broader financial picture. You got to look at the whole financial picture to understand the financial health of an individual or an entity, such as a country. We must look beyond just the debt figure and consider other critical factors like income. Now, of course, the nation doesn't make income, but it does make GDP. Yeah, GDP and the net worth. So we do have assets on reserve. We got a lot of gold on reserve. Right? We got a lot of land that we own. So this is a complete view, similar to how banks evaluate a loan applicant. It's essential to accurately assess the nation's financial standing in order to start talking, but people just start talking. So when you hear somebody talk about the national debt and don't talk about debt to GDP ratio, then you just know that they're not saying what they need to say. They're not talking about the full context of the financial picture. Debt alone doesn't paint the full picture. And when national debt is brought up, it's common for people to immediately think that the budget cut is the only solution. Obviously, we're dealing with the left and the right. Both of them don't want to cut no expenses. So how do we get out of here? Now, this focuses on debt reduction alone. It's incomplete. The United States, like any financial entity, has a balance sheet which includes assets and liabilities. We over here believe in assets over liabilities. Now, if you're applying for a home loan, the bank doesn't just ask, how much debt do you have? They look at your income, other assets, capital gains, net worth, even rental income to determine your overall financial health. And that same approach applies to evaluating the national debt strength. We got to look at the whole picture. So if you're hearing half of the picture, then you're sitting up here hearing half of the information. So you arrive at half of the solution? I don't know. The U.S. government owns significant assets. We got federal, state, local governments collectively control more than 40% of the land in the United States. This land is an asset that factors into the government's overall net worth. How much we got on reserve? This is often overlooked, part of the balance sheet, but one that is critical when considering the national debt. And we still have gold reserves, so don't forget about that, all right? You Bitcoinians, y'all don't have any gold on reserve, but we do. So put some respect on the nation. Now, the role of GDP and assets, but we're going to focus on GDP because growth is the best way to head out of this. We got a lot of CapEx AI growth coming from big tech like Meta, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, Nvidia, and etc. Now, to evaluate a nation's financial strength, we must consider the debt to GDP ratio, which compares what a country owes to its overall economic output. But that's only part of the equation. The U.S. also has a substantial asset base. The federal government owns trillions of dollars in land and other assets, and selling a portion of these assets, as was done historically, can reduce the nation's debt. Now, again, it has been done historically, so don't come at me crazy, all right? Don't come at me. You're not ready for that. Again, I know that jujitsu. This is exactly what happened in the 1830s. The U.S. government managed to shrink the national debt through a combination of budget cuts. We're not going to do that, obviously. Trump, Biden, AOC, whoever's in the future, they ain't about to cut nothing. They about to hand out more free money, more free vibranium. So with that being said, we have to look at sales of federally owned land to the private sector and also selling off some assets and the growth of the GDP. Now, let me give you an example. The national debt during the Revolutionary War was over $75 million in 1791. Now, over the following decades, the debt continued to grow. However, in 1835, significant debt reduction occurred due to both physical restraint, we ain't got that, we're not going to do that, so let's not worry about that, and sell of federal assets. We could possibly do that. Now, this shows that there are multiple tools in the financial toolkit beyond just cutting the budget. That's it. Elon tried it in Doge. He failed. No disrespect, but you failed. You failed miserably. All right? Not miserably, but you failed a bit. All right? So can the U.S. sustain its debt? That's the question we got to ask ourselves. Can we sustain this debt? Of course. It's naturally to be concerning when looking at the national debt, which currently stands at more than 40 trillion. However, if you make more in a comprehensive view, the certain becomes less alarming if you look at it in its full entirety. For instance, the U.S. makes 27 trillion annually in GDP and owns over 100 trillion in assets. Let's repeat that again. Hold on, I don't think y'all heard that. This is why I'm the master of this. We own over 100 trillion in assets. The debt to income ratio is manageable. This is similar to how individuals make enough money to cover their debt service payments while still having significant assets to back them up. Now, we're not meeting that debt service because it's a lot compared to what we raise, but we do have assets that we could sell off 100 trillion to reduce that 40 trillion in the service that is required on that debt. Okay, this is how we rock and roll when you know the financial picture. And again, I didn't even get around to the growth of the GDP yet. Now, people often assume the national debt automatically leads to economic decline, but history suggests otherwise. If a country continues to make wise investments and grow the economy, grow the economy, as the U.S. has done in the past, debt becomes less of an immediate concern. Think of it as alleviating for growth, leveraging, right? Debt for growth. Imagine that. We leverage debt for growth. Now, a lot of debt that we take out, I think at least 30% goes to social programs. So that's bums underperforming. So we don't get much growth from that. If anything, we get sliding progression. Like we don't get any progression. We get degeneracy. But anyways, another approach that could work for individuals and nations when done strategically. So we leverage for growth. Now, of course, the government is about to make no smart plays so we can grow, like invest in smart industries like AI and robotics. But I digress. The bright future, AI and the technological advancements. Now, one of the most promising factors in the U.S. economic future is the expected growth in GDP due to advances in artificial intelligence. And believe me, to me, to you, to me, I would not actually say this if there was no AI and robotics around the corner. I'd be like, yeah, all right, doomers and gloomers, you probably right. It's looking kind of bad for your boy out here. But that's not the case. It's not looking bad when you look at the artificial intelligence, energy storage, and other technological frontiers like robotics. Now, we've all seen how previous technological revolutions like the Industrial Revolution and the Information Age created unprecedented global wealth, not just national, but global. Now, the global GDP, which is around 40 trillion in 1980, has now skyrocketed to 140 trillion. So $100 trillion from 1980 to, let's say, present day. That is ridiculous. We can even go down to, let's say, 2020. So that's 40 years. We added 100 trillion to the global GDP in the United States of America from the 2000s and in 2020. Let's go to 2000. From the 2000s to now, so let's say 25, 26 years, right? We added 17 trillion to our GDP. We're at 27 trillion. 17 trillion was added in a mere factor of 25 years from the internet and digital technologies. The upcoming AI revolution has the potential to dwarf these previous gains by improving efficiency across industries, increasing production, and creating new markets. And we'll go to show that. Apple's bringing back manufacturing. We have smart factories. So we don't have the same type of factories and warehouses that we used to have. We have factories with technology, and so we call them smart factories. Now, AI will allow us to harness and optimize both industrial and informational power in ways never before possible. In the same way the Industrial Revolution transformed manufacturing and the Information Age transformed communication, AI will revolutionize how we process and use data. Now, this will likely lead to the explosion, yeah, you heard it, in economic value that will further bolster the U.S. economy. Now, track with me. The role of financial literacy in national economics is necessary because when you don't have it, you out here sounding like a fool. You out here drum rolling, playing games, tricking people, following the drama. We don't care about the drama, right? We just want solutions. Financial literacy is essential, not just for personal finance, but also for understanding national economics. And when someone argues the U.S. national debt spells disaster, ask them, what is the GDP of the U.S. and what is its net worth of all its assets? Ask that question. Without considering all these factors, you can't give a complete assessment of the country's financial health. Just like a banker wouldn't approve or deny a loan without reviewing the complete financial profile. Am I making sense here? Come on. Got to evaluate the whole entire profile in order to understand what's going on. America's financial situation is far more nuanced than a simple debt figure. And yes, we have debt, but we also have immense assets and strong income stream in the form of GDP that's expanding and growing. As long as the U.S. continues to invest wisely in the future, and I don't mean the public market, I mean the private, meaning private companies, private enterprise. Of course, the public companies, like we said, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, and etc., NVIDIA. We got great companies doing great things, particularly in industries like AI, energy, and aerospace. There's every reason to believe that the future is bright, just like a well-managed portfolio. Sometimes taking on debt can help increase net worth. Now, the government's debt probably ain't help us at all increase our income and net worth. Okay, not at all. Maybe about 20% it helped out, right? But provided it is done strategically, we can move forward with this AI and robotics revolution. The conclusion is a balanced approach to the national debt. See, you got to be balanced, man. You got to be more zen out here. What? Now, the U.S. has been in debt since its inception, and yet it remains one of the wealthiest and the most powerful nations on earth. And instead of focus solely on debt reduction through budget cuts, that's what we're always arguing about, or some people are. I'm not arguing. And we should take a balanced approach. And this means investing in the future, growing GDP, and understanding that the U.S. has significant assets that could be leveraged if necessary. America's financial future, driven by technological advancement and wise investment, looks bright. And the national debt is just one part of a much larger financial picture. Look, somebody said the debt just hit 40 trillion. Let me ask you something. Did anything in your life change today? No, it did not. So next time you hear doom and gloom about the national debt, remember, look at the complete balance sheet. It's more about just liabilities. It's assets, income, called GDP, and future growth of all play a critical role in evaluating the nation's financial health and wealth. Come on. I do this for a living. This is how it is. The United States just hit 40 trillion in debt. And the only way for us to deal with it is growth, because no political party is ready to cut the spending. So how are we going to get the growth? We got AI CapEx. That CapEx is coming from big companies like Meta, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Oracle, and then also Blackstone. We got institutions out here, BlackRock. They're in the game. Brookfield, shout outs to those guys. So we're tapping into pension funds, dowries, and sovereign wealth funds. I love it. Now, how have those big tech companies been funding the CapEx? Well, initially, it was from free cash flow, but that dried up. So now it's about issuing bonds. Now, Google issued a 100-year bond with a 6% yield, and Meta and Oracle have 6 to 8% yields as well. So a lot of people are raising capital. We're one of the largest capital markets across the universe. And not only that, we're making this boom by the AI CapEx, we're also increasing our revenues. 28% growth from a company like Meta. YouTube, and not even just YouTube, but Google in itself is growing around 16% growth. Microsoft, all these companies are growing and performing extremely well. So they're growing revenue, they're growing bottom line, and we have the CapEx spend. We have the largest capital market to sustain most of the information that we need and the build out that we need, the infrastructure. So we're looking pretty good as far as geniuses go. But of course, people are going to be scared and skeptical. And this is one of the funny parts about it. I'm going to pull this up. I'm just going to show you this in the background. See, if the AI spend is crazy, then how are companies, these memory companies out here in Korea, crushing it? These companies out here crushing it. Everybody's hyping these companies up. Oh, they're finna take over. They're doing amazing. Look at this investment. They're investing in the memory. They're spending billions. I forgot how many billions this project is. I think they said above 100 billion. It's got to be more than that. So it's more than 100 billion that they're investing in new infrastructure in Korea for the factories or foundries so that they could build out the largest foreign U.S. market caps in memory for the semiconductor, for the AI stack. So if it's all BS, if it's all fake, then I guess Korea is going down too, on top of China, because everybody's, raving and ranting about China doing great. So make it make sense.
That for the memory chip, without that, they cannot produce it. Their AI computing and AI chips.
So without look at this investment. Look at these serious. Oh, watch this. I was wrong. I lowballed it. 720 billion to triple capacity by 2034. But people out here telling you so. Bubble, make it make sense, bruv. That's a lot of money. Micron's up right there on that list. There's many companies making massive amounts of investment. I really just don't see it sometimes. People just be making up stuff. Now, let me go to one of these articles that I was writing, because just the other day I made some cool posts. Of course, all my posts are cool. And I think it was pretty interesting. Let me bring it up. I think Meta is very interesting. It's a definitely cool buy that I'm actually looking at right now. Only published one article? Yeah. I was leaving the other article to be published at a time just like now. Published. Let me see. Yeah, go ahead and just put that out. Try to see what times work best for publishing my articles out here, especially on X. Go look your boy up because I got mad articles, always talking about the good old stuff. So let's talk about it. There's a big trial right now with Meta right now. Everybody's going ham on Meta. And I was sitting back just thinking, like, it's so funny because when you look at the news and the information, it's just negative across the board. But when you really think about it, I think Mark Z forgot the untold story of why Meta still matters, at least to me. Now let's get busy. We live in a new era where every conversation about Meta seems to require open with some list of sins. Privacy, kids, misinformation, the trial of the week. The narrative is so dominant in the Western media that it has become the background noise, assumed, unexamined, and rarely challenged with the simple question of all. What has this company actually done for people? That's a big question. Anybody in the audience can just answer that? Now, Ben Thompson recently on the podcast, he was hitting that actual nail on the head with this. Ben Thompson recently put his finger on this one of the most important and least discussed parts of the answer. Meta's advertising business is not a necessary evil. People have been mad at advertising for a long time. I'm not. Now, it is a societal positive that the company itself has largely stopped defending. Meta has stopped defending the positivity. I'm probably sure they're just like normies are going to be normies, so we don't care. Let's not spend money to engage in this. Now, Thompson's observation is precise. The core function of Meta's ad system is to help entrepreneurs find the specific niches of people who actually want what they make. Now, on the internet, almost any product has an audience somewhere. The hard problem is discovery. Meta's machine solves that problem at scale. A small business creates something useful or delightful. The platform finds the people who love it, even if those people never knew the product exists. The customer gets something that improves their life, whether it's a product or a service. Boom, the entrepreneur builds a real business and the user receives free entertainment and connection along the way. Now, Meta and its shareholders, which through index fund, is a large portion of the investing public. So most people got 401ks in Meta and they're complaining about these big companies doing good and want them to do harm. This is your retirement funds, but people don't know because they're financially illiterate. Now, capture some of the value. That is not extraction. That is a positive sum loop. Okay, so we got people being matched with products and services that they desire, and then also people getting free entertainment and information. And then on top of that, the company does good, increasing the index funds, which a large portion is invested through people's retirement of 401ks and IRAs. Boom. That sounds like a positive experience across the board. Now, Thompson is frustrated correctly that Mark Zuckerberg and Meta leadership do not tell this story with any consistency. So that's why I'm here, the big dog. The company rarely surface case studies of small businesses and entrepreneurs whose lives were changed by the platform. Today, the dominant narrative, at least coming out of the West, about Meta is about AI hardware in the future. Shout outs to that. The advertising engine that pays for everything and creates daily utility for hundreds of millions of people is treated almost as an embarrassment. And Zuckerberg, Thomason notes, has the same problem as Sam Altman does. He does not love ads. I like ads, especially when ads are relevant. See, I don't like ads that are not relevant. That's the problem. Nobody gets mad at an ad that actually gives them a product or service that they want. People get mad at an ad that's irrelevant, bro. So it's in the way. It's trash. That's it. That's the difference. Effective advertisement versus ineffective advertisement creates a great experience or a bad experience, a good result or a bad result. That reluctance has cause. When Apple framed digital advertising as fundamentally dirty during the ATT fight, Meta had already surrendered the moral high ground by failing to make the affirmative case for years. The failure goes deeper than advertising. Now, this is the biggest point for me right here. All right. So listen to this. I'm going to spit bar after bar. The biggest point about Meta right now, this is real life change, is the connection machine we pretend to forget. Now, long before there was a WhatsApp, some of you guys don't know because y'all were born in the world with smartphones in your back pockets. Y'all had smartphones as babies. But long before WhatsApp became the default international messaging tool, Facebook was a bridge. I know this from direct experience. See, I was a United States Marine deployed overseas. The distance was abstract. It was measured in months, unreliable calls, and slow knowledge that the people you care about were living their lives without you in the room. Facebook was how I stayed connected to my family and friends. It was how I saw updates, photos, and small details that made separation bearable. Instagram later became another thread in the same fabric. These platforms were not perfect. They were, however, functionally available and human scale in a way that mattered when the alternative was isolation. So years I'd be deployed overseas. I wouldn't know what was going on with my family, my friends, but it was Facebook. I remember I met a friend like 10 years after I've been deployed overseas all over the place, traveling across the world. We met 10 years later. We sat down and started having a conversation. He was like, bro, why does it feel like we just met like a couple of months ago? Why doesn't it feel like I haven't seen you in 10 years? And I was like, dang, I guess because we were Facebook. We stayed connected. I could message him. I was able to see his updates, him getting married, him proposing, him then getting married, him going to basketball camp, blah, 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 blah. Him playing basketball, going to the court, who he was playing against. I knew what was going on in his life. And so we stayed connected. I stayed up to date. And so when we met in person, it felt like, oh man, we were still connected. Now, here we go. Years later, those same networks remain the only reliable connection I have to many high school friends, childhood friends, former teachers, and people from earlier chapters of my life. And also, shoot, my sister was able to find her father through Facebook. Her absent father that she never knew. She found it through Facebook. I found the other side of my father's family on Facebook, my cousins. I found them on Facebook. The graph does not care about the latest media cycle. It simply works. Billions of people experience some version of this reality every day. Go outside of American and Western European media bubble, and the picture becomes even clearer. Usage data and surveys consistently show that Meta products are valued for exactly what they claim to do, connecting people to people, and increasingly the things they care about, period. I don't care about the new trial in Meta. Y'all don't like Mark Zuckerberg and all this other dumb nonsense that y'all keep going back and forth about. In the total reality of the situation, 3.6 billion people log on these family of apps continuously, not because they dread it, they hate it, they brainwash, they're manipulated. No, it's because they like the platform. End of story. They like the platform so much. Y'all out here suing Meta because it's so likable. Talking about it's addictive. More addictive than sugar? How, Sway? More addictive than nicotine? How, Sway? The Western narrative treats this as the secondary and even suspect. And that is a bias, not a measurement of reality. And when a company serves billions of people across cultures, language, and income levels, and those people keep returning, the product is delivering value that elite discourse has decided to undervalue. The media decided to undervalue. Take a pause for the cause. Shout outs to Daily, Capital, Living, What's Good, 020, $5 in the building. Much respects, gratitude for the contribution to the nation and dedication. I'll put that to some assets. You know I'm going to do that. So advertising is not the villain people pretend it is. At least not for me. When I get an advertisement that's good, I love it. When it's bad and it's irrelevant to me, I dislike it. So we just don't like bad advertisement. That's it. People claim to hate advertising. What they actually hate is bad advertising, irrelevant, intrusive, or manipulative noise. Almost no one resents discovering a product or service they end up loving because an ad put it in front of them at the right moment. That is the untold story of Meta's commercial engine, and even Google too. It is discovery, not just interruption. And so the same machine that connects a Marine to his family also connects a niche maker of specialized gear to an exact customer who will value it. Both functions are real. Both create utility. Treating one as noble and the other as tainted is a category error that serves media narratives more than it serves the users or entrepreneurs that use these platforms. Now, this is where the current moment becomes interesting. AI gives Meta the chance to make advertising actually great. Better models mean tighter matching between what people want and what is shown to them. And when the ads stop feeling like an interruption and start feeling like a useful recommendation, the entire platform strengthens. The social graph does not just connect you to people you already know, it connects you to products, service, and experiences you will value. That is not a distraction from the social mission. It is an extension of it and an add addition of it. I think it's a story that's not told. I'm telling the other side of the story. Skip all the guts and the glory. I did it for the Maury show, still trying to get dough. Now, the cost of looking away. Zuckerberg and Meta have spent years prioritizing the next thing, the dumb metaverse, no disrespect, and then generative AI, then super intelligence, narratives while under communicating the extraordinary thing they already built. See, Google doesn't stop doing that. Search, connecting people to information. The results is a company that could appear vaguely embarrassed by its own cash engine and by an everyday utility it provides to ordinary people. That posture has political costs, regulatory costs, and narrative costs. It also creates an opening for critics to define the company entirely by its failures or externalities while ignoring the positive sum reality that keeps people logging in on a daily basis. Your girl keep coming back to the gram. The opportunity is still there. Meta can own the story of niche discovery, the connection at scale. It can use AI to raise the quality of advertising until the distraction between useful recommendation and traditional ad begins to collapse. It can remind the world in itself that the reason hundreds of billions of people still open these apps is not because they have been manipulated into it. It is because the product continue to solve real human problems of distance, discovery, and belonging. I have lived one version of that solution. Deployed overseas, Facebook was a line that stayed open. Years later, it remains the only remaining thread to people I would otherwise have lost. Multiply that experience by the number of people who use these products every day across every continent, and the scale of the impact becomes hard to dismiss as an afterthought. Mark Zuckerberg built something that still matters. The advertising system that funds it creates genuine economic and personal value. The social graph still binds people across distance and time. The media narrative that treats all of this as secondary or suspect is not the full picture. It is a selective one that thrives in certain zip codes and newsrooms more than it reflects the lived experience of the actual users. The story is still available to be told. It just requires the company and those of us who have benefited from the platform to stop treating the most important parts of what Meta does as something to be embarrassed about. Advertising and social networking has been a net positive. Boom, I'm speaking facts all in this stream. But most of the time, people ain't going to listen to the bro. I'm still trying to figure out why. It's nothing but facts. Now, I don't know if you guys have not seen Medora stock or whatever. That joints went up and away. Let me show you this. It was crazy. I mean, this is just madness. Look at that. The stock went from $63 all the way up. 100 is basically 200% in a day. 200%, my guy, in a day. Massively crazy. Just think about that. $1 million in it, up 200%. Woo! That would have been 2 M's right there. Oh my gosh. I wish I would have seen it. Now, why did that happen? They had a breakthrough with cancer vaccine for skin cancer. And so it was some promise in the late trial. And so the stock surged 200%. Aftermarket, it was 177% in the mRNA cancer vaccine. Oh, man, years of dedication and motivation. So I wish I was an insider and knew that, because I would have invested in that boy and saw my stocks go straight to the moon. Why can't they give me the inside information? I would love the inside information. I would love to know what's happening like this. We're going to go over one thing before we get out of here. Oh my gosh, I'm still a little bit mad about it. Now let's close out with some positivity. Let's get it. Here we go. The world is less competitive than you think. This is facts, but let's see what they're talking about.
Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Calvin Coolidge.
I just did a recent video about why the average person's life isn't very good. And I go into like the median 35 to 40-year-old has a mediocre job that pays just enough to get by. They have maybe a weak family life and they have health issues and a variety of other things. Yet a lot of younger generations, particularly Gen Z, want to have an average life, and they just have given up on the idea of being exceptional because they see in the age of the internet where anybody can apply to any school or any job online, that there's thousands of people applying for one role for a lot of things. It's discouraging. And
now again, that's always been the case. Have you ever stood in a line where massive amounts of people were fighting for the same job and you had to drive there? You had to get ready, prepare. You had to go in person. Now you're just applying online. That's more relatively easier than ever before. But if you're always looking at it as I have it the worst and the hardest, and most people are telling people that, then this is why most people are not competitive. I'm not mad. I'm going to win regardless. I'm going to have a great life in this one life that I got. That's going to happen. I don't care what's going on. I'm not going to live a normal life. Negative. That's why I'm going to retire at 32. But if you want to believe some of these tropes, then go have it. Enjoy yourself.
you see like the statistics of the chances of you becoming a YouTuber, which I also did a video on, or the chances of you getting a job at an elite firm, or the chance of you going to a good college, or the chances of you having a happy marriage, or the chance of a lot of things. And these numbers all look extremely low. And so it's like, why bother trying?
Because you still got to live life? That's stupid. Do I want to live on the street and be homeless because I won't have a great marriage? That's stupid. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't want to not have a great marriage and be homeless in the street. Duh. I'm telling you, this is a two-parent household type of narrative. This has got to be. This has got to be some stupid stuff that you concoct up because you lived in a two-parent household in the Family Matters life where everything was good, right? Oh, I had my mom and my dad. I had food in the refrigerator. I had some chores. Maybe you had no chores. You got allowances. Everything was nice. Everything was okay. Because this sounds almost stupid coming from struggle. Like, maybe I don't want to starve to death. That's a reason. Like,
the question really I want to go into this is that there is a lot of competition. I'm not going to deny that. But it's not really as bad as feared. Like, being exceptional is not as difficult as the statistics imply. And this is especially true in non-zero sum games. Like, I think entrepreneurship and making money and in general, like the economic world, is a non-zero sum game. It's a positive sum game where people can win without being at the expense of others. Where there are some zero sum games where this makes it a little bit difficult, particularly like getting into elite colleges. There's only so many slots in the college and there's a flood of applicants. Or any sort of status game, like getting into a country club that only allows 30 people. That's that is a zero-sum game, and the competition is tough for stuff like.
Yeah, but who cares? What upside is in any of those? Plus, you can reach out to so many people on the internet with social networking. It's irrelevant. Why would I be worried about that? Those are just old, structural, traditional routes, like getting into an elite school. I'm trying to make elite capital, elite money. I don't need an elite school. What are we talking about? But hey, if you follow that and you're looking at these narratives, you're going to have a problem. So have at it.
That. But thankfully, in the modern world, most of the world isn't that way. And so why do I say that the world is less competitive? Because people give up quicker than you generally think. Like, a lot of people have this idea that you get good grades in high school, you go to a good college or a trade school, you have your job, and if you didn't get into your dream career by the time you say 25, then you just have to settle for wherever you are now and just coast along your way.
I don't know. Somebody always making up a narrative saying somebody told them this. Like, it's starting to get annoying. Man, we've been told, go to school, get good grades, you'll have a family, and then you'll win, and then get retired and have a house. Who told you that? Like, I want to know, who told you that? Like, who? I don't remember being told that. I was growing up in the same nation. I was growing up watching the same things. I don't remember nobody sitting me down and saying that. Like, you go to school, you get good grades, and you win. And even if it was somebody, it was probably your family member. So you're going to go get mad at your mom and your dad or something. I don't know. But they probably didn't even have that. And if they did, so what? Like, what? And 100 years ago, nobody had nothing. Nobody could even read.
And then you maybe get married at 30 and just have your family and just kind of say, like, this is my lot in life, and accept it. The vast majority of people give up on their dreams by the time they're 40. And I'd say it's over 80%. And that aligns also with the percentage of people who actually end up succeeding in life, as I've mentioned in other videos. And I'd say a good half of people give up on their goals by the time they're 25. And if most of these people are quitting or never even trying to begin with,
they never try to begin with. And that's the statistics. Not on this video, but on the other one. He was talking about New Year's resolution. He was saying by at least, I think it was April, 80% of people, 90% of people failed their New Year's resolution. Gym membership, I believe he said 80% of people cancel it by month 5 of the year. So month 5, they canceled it. And he was like, it's probably month 3. They just forgot for 2 months that they were paying, and then they canceled it. But let's clock it at 5 to be conservative. So when it comes down to the gym, people quit. When it comes down to personal goals they set, a New Year's resolution, majority quit. So this whole thing, now you've been goaded in most of your life, like everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to do this. Everybody's this and that. No, everybody's just a bunch of quitters. That's the reality. Per the statistics, for whatever particular reason, you can come in here and start playing the violin and telling me why you quit, why you became a failure. Yeah, life got in the way. You feel me? You feel me? I fell in love. You feel me? I found this girl. I loved her a lot. Or I found this man and I fell in love, you know, whatever. You got an excuse for whatever reason. It's not an excuse. Okay, it's a justification. But there go the reason.
Comparing it to the aggregate is the wrong denominator. You should compare it to the numerator of the people who are still going at it and persisting this whole time. That's where you could get your edge.
You could say me.
And that is, the world is really less competitive than you think because of that. And think about when we went to high school, for example. Most of the people I've watched have graduated from high school. There were the people who were in the AP classes and were trying really hard to get into elite colleges. And then there were the kids who didn't really try to do much of anything and coasted by. And then there were people in between.
Yep. I definitely was one of those people. So that's also a story too. Even using that as a benchmark to measure that, like there's people who are there trying to be the best of the best in school. And the majority were just coasting. And I've seen this in the military. And people just be like, oh, thanks for your service. All you guys are working. Man, I've seen a bunch of people just chilling, collecting a check, getting by in the military. Even when they got out the military, they didn't do anything. While they were in the military, they didn't do anything. They didn't take advantage of none of the free money for tuition. They didn't take advantage of any of the training. They didn't take advantage of any of the skills that you could build upon via the training and the courses that you could take. They did none of that. They got out. They didn't even use the GI Bill. They got out. They didn't use the VA loan. They got out. They didn't do anything. And then they ended up in a warehouse somewhere. That was the vast majority. The vast majority didn't house hack with a VA loan. The vast majority didn't use tuition assistance to get a degree while they were in the military and then use the GI Bill to go to school and finalize their schooling or get, masters, whatever. They didn't do none of that. That's the reality. And even if they did, they went to the school just to coast, to do the bare minimum, like they did when they were in the military. That's my experience from the military. Most people were just there getting by. And then you had the group that were doing exceptional. And it's always the exceptional that do the most.
And those people are counted. And it's like the business failure rate is a good example. They say like roughly half of new businesses closed within 5 years and about 2/3 closed within 10. The point being, a lot of those businesses were just like, hey, I'll just get a business card and build a website and see what happens. Would that really count as like a major business failure? Not all business failures are equal. And some businesses end because they got acquired or they have a New Year's
Watch this. This is the New Year's resolution part.
And it's New Year's resolutions. About 91% of people who have a New Year's resolution fail. Only 9% of people who set them keep them through the entire year, according to Drive Research.
9% of people keep their goals throughout the whole year for a New Year's resolution. I'm one of them. And yeah, that is the majority. That's why click-through rates for financial channels is not high. It's just sell a product to the rich. Sell something effective and efficient to the rich. That's why when people ask me, they'd be like, bro, why don't you sell this? I'd be like, bro, if I'm selling something, I'm selling to the rich, bro. As a small scale, if I was large, then you could sell to the brokies and the normies. But that's it. Just sell to the rich. 9%. Only 9% of Americans make New Year's resolution. That's the goal they made for themselves. So it's not some arbitrary goal that I set. Oh, I don't care about capitalism. Okay, it's a goal you set usually, the New Year's resolution. And you failed at that. How about that, sir?
And you have 23% of those people quit within the first week. 43% quit.
The majority quit by the end of January. What about the masses? What about them, bro? What about everybody, bro? What about everyone? Can't you help everybody? They can't help themselves. The majority quit by January on a goal they set for themselves. I don't even have to input what their goal is. I'm not saying it needs to be money, career, none of that. A Lamborghini, I didn't say none of that. You don't need to be financially free. You don't need to retire early. Okay, cool. You haven't even met your own goal. You quit. The majority by the end of January.
By the end of January, and 80% abandoned by February. So
by February, 80% of the cohort is gone. The people. Me and the people just, we serve the people, don't you? No.
I don't think New Year's resolutions is a solitary data point when it comes to this. I think gym memberships are the same way. 80% of people who sign up for gym memberships in January quit within 5 months. And a lot of that probably takes them 5 months because they just forget that they're being automatically billed. So it's probably closer to 3 months realistically. And the point is, like, if these are the people you're competing against in just about everything who are going to just try the easiest way to do something and say, oh, it didn't work with my first shot at it, then you really have a chance more to succeed. I think quitting is...
It's just showing up. I forgot, it might have been Andrew Tate or David Goggins, but he was saying life is extremely easy because the majority of people are not even running in a race. I have found that to be the truth. Most people aren't even running. Much respects to the chat. Big up Financial Frontier. Haven't caught one of your live streams for a while. I see you recently added back your old videos. Top guy. Yeah, I'll be adding more to the catalog. I still have some in the archives, so I'm about to unleash the Kraken on that. But much respects, I greatly appreciate it, and thanks for catching the live stream. And also sponsor of the day, Daily Living Capital, with the $5 contribution. I'm gonna go ahead and buy some stocks with that. I think I'm gonna get some Nvidia. Not quite sure, but much respects and greatly appreciated. Seriously. Now, this is a good man. He's always progressing in life. I've seen it many occasions on the Instagram, as I was talking about with Meta. It allows me to stay connected to high functional individuals. And one of them is Daily Living Capital. And as I said, he's always working towards his goal. So whether he's in the gym, whether he's on Bible study, whether he's making moves economically, he's a person who's progressing physically, spiritually, mentally, and economically across the board. And so that's a good person right there. That's the type of supporters and sponsors I want. I don't want a bunch of people barking at me. No disrespect, I show speed, but definitely want some supporters and subscribers that are doing great in their own life, because that's the best way that you make an impact on this channel, is by making your life better. And this young gentleman is doing that. Salute you, brother. All right. So as we see, this guy is saying you don't have to be the top dog. Most people are not even in the race.
Fundamentally, choice fatigue, which helps kind of explain why I think sustained effort is the biggest hedge that you have. And if you keep that
Yeah, just staying in the game. Sustained effort is basically the biggest advantage out there. It's the biggest arbitrage in the marketplace, because most people are not sustaining it. They're quitting, they're throwing in the towel, they're giving up, they're crying, all that. Millionaire on paper. Let's see what he say real quick.
On paper, this person should be able to, with their assets, be able to generate enough income to have a very comfortable life. But in practice, they are very financially strapped. There are two kind of classic examples for this. First one is somebody who has a lot of real estate equity from a house or a few properties they bought at a young age, and now that they're old and happen to be fortunate to live in an area with a lot of compounding. Example is there's a lot of them here where I live in Southern California. It's easy to see somebody 75 years old. They have a house that they bought in the 1980s for maybe 100 to 200K. So let's just say 140K, for example. Over the years, just due to compounding, inflation, and just the boom in real estate that's been in Southern California, the house is now worth $2 to $3 million. And then this person's income, on the other hand, is just Social Security and maybe a small pension or RMD from their 401k. And so they may be making 35 to 50 grand a year, but their net worth, because they have a paid off house in a premier area, is
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's why even if you qualify to be an accredited investor, they don't even count the primary house. They're looking for like more so liquid capital, but also other forms of capital. But cash, cash poor. Asset rich, cash poor. And that's a reality. So you're thinking like, oh my gosh, this guy's a multimillionaire because his primary house is worth what it's worth. But when it comes down to it, the amount of money that could be generated, whether it's salary or through some type of passive income and etc., capital gains, like it's around $35,000. And then, a lot of that is not taking in the expense and the maintenance over the years. So that's not like, oh, he only spent $200 on a house. It's a little bit more, because you got to remember, in order for that house to be valued at 2.5, it still has to be in some order. So roof, foundation, everything that they did over the years, HVAC system, they had to keep that in good maintenance and spend money in their home. So you got to total that up and subtract it, because when they sell the property, that's of course a part of the money they put into the property to maintain that value of 2.5 million. And so, yeah, the cash might be strapped. They might be short on it.
$0.5 million. On paper, this person's a millionaire. On paper, this person should be able to, with their assets, be able to generate enough income to have a very comfortable life. But in practice, they are very financially strapped.
And if they're not financially literate, even though they have that amount of money or equity sitting in their primary house, they don't know how to take it out and make it generate cash on a monthly or quarterly basis. And so they don't know how to create cash flow with that money. Maybe a muni bond is the best way, conservatively, but if that's not even enough, whether the muni bond be 3 to 4 or 5% or whatever yield, then they have to figure out some other alternative route: real estate syndication, secured line of credit, maybe if they can invest in some other alternative investments, like they have to figure that out. They have to be financially literate. Then they have to mitigate their risk. I think he said they're 70. What is their risk profile? And so all these things come in and factor. And that's why it's very important and imperative that you become financially literate, because you're like, oh my gosh, these people are millionaires, a small percentage of Americans, but still they might be those type of millionaires. They're not liquid. They ain't looking into a brokerage account or even their 401k. That could be good too, where they're looking at just $1 million plus. That's a big difference. So, interesting. Always fun to talk about. Much respects to Meta, the $40 trillion debt. We talked about it. There's no such thing as the doom and gloom. And let's get out of here with one of those amazing songs. Y'all like that song, that intro song? I think I'm gonna keep doing that. Or I can do something else. But I like the intro song. It reminds me of positivity. And that's what we want to actually market over here is positivity. We ain't out here with all the negativity. Let me get back to it. Let's put it back up. Let's get it. Here we go. Let's get the music pumping again. Here we go. Catch you guys on the next one. Let's go if you know the lyrics.
It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. Love and tradition of the grand design, some people say it's even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. 'Cause all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting at every seam. We're gonna fill our house with happiness, but we'll smother the blues with tenderness. There's room for you, room for me, for gentle hearts and opportunity. It's the bigger love of the family.
Hey, shout outs to the last question. Let me just get it. Can you speak about investing in Thailand? And if you do, on the next show, I know you live out there and would be good to get some. Yeah, I'll speak to it shortly and then we're out the stream. Negative for me. For me, I wouldn't invest just because, you know, dealing with certain type of, let's say, economies, especially economy like Thailand, is very restrictive. Right now, they're having a big issue right now with Thai nominees, which was a lot of people who set up companies in the name of a certain type of investment. And, you know, you usually got like this 51 split between a Thai national and 49 of a foreigner. And so, you know, you don't even own the majority of your company and all these business arrangements. You could invest and have 100%. Certain nationalities can apply for certain different type of contingencies, but those contingencies can always move. And it had a lot of people that were complicit in setting up these type of structures. And these structures were in a gray area, but net illegal and skirting the law. But it was lawyers that were making these arrangements. And so foreigners were coming into a foreign market, accepting the local legal structures that were being pushed by allegedly many different law firms and lawyers, licenses and practices, and they were illegal structures. And so that became a big issue. People are getting hunted. Some people, of course, were doing misdeeds and were intentional. Some were not. And so now, you know, a lot of people are just dealing with those issues. But that comes with investing in foreign countries. So most of my capital, I just like to keep it in the United States of America, because investing in foreign countries, they can always just change the rules and the laws, and you're not a local. And so, you know, it's not like you have the political power or the position or the even good standing. You're not from here. This is our country, our land. We say so. End of story. And then that's the most of the case. So for me, I'm like, what, you know, it's a $500 billion GDP versus America, 27 trillion. So billionaires more so exist in America than here. And so I always just compare the macroeconomics for me specifically. I say, where's the real money? Where's the 8X, 20X, 50 bagger? It all exists in the United States, the largest capital markets, the largest real estate deals, the most valuable and expensive and high growth and high yield real estate. It's all in the USA. And so with that being said, with the infrastructure, the lenders, the whole entire stack when it comes down to real estate investment, capital investments, public and private markets, it's there in the United States of America. It's not completely built out in these foreign countries. So there is some edge in there, but if I was a local, I would take that edge because I would have prioritization of my ownership and equity wouldn't be diluted. I wouldn't be streamlined or regulated into a minority share or split distribution. Foreign regulation, foreign stipulations, like it's just too volatile for my taste. But if you could find a market that's favorable, there's always opportunity, period, everywhere. So that would be my kind of perspective. So when people would be like, oh, you want to invest in Thailand? I'm like, yeah, whatever. My condo is a great condo overlooking. It's probably worth $500,000. I'm paying the landlord somewhere around $2,000 a month. So being in a property to be $500,000 and only paying $2,000 in rental, the yield is maybe 2% on that much money. That's ridiculous. So why would I ever invest? And that's long term. A long term rental in America could yield me on $500,000 somewhere around 9%, 8%. Conservative 6, but 2 negative. So that's kind of where I just follow the numbers. And if the numbers make sense, then I focus on that. And the largest economic growth is usually USA. China, of course, obviously, I'm not allowed to in many ways and shape, forms, and fashions. And even if I could, negative. So yeah, that's kind of my spill on that. So yeah, 500 billion GDP or maybe $30 trillion GDP. I'm going to be at the 30 trillion. Now, back to ending the show.
It's the bigger love of the family.
Peace.